Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our October Planning Commission meeting. I am Brandon Rule, and we will start with a roll call of our commissioners. Mr. Ingram? Ms. Tucker? Here. Mr. Bell? Here. Ms. Fincher is still on maternity leave. Mr. Gaynor? Present. Ms. Sanders-Jones? Present. And Ms. King?
Present.
And Mr. Webb?
Present.
And Ms. Williams?
Present.
So we do have a quorum. Before we get started, let's review and approve our minutes from September. Any questions, comments, corrections? Hit your microphone. We have a motion from Ann and a second from Arthur. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye as well. And before we get started in our public hearing, if there's anyone here in the audience tonight that is here for the One Church conditional use permit, that item is going to be next month. So to save you all any time or confusion, if you are here for that item, we will be hearing that next month in November. Okay, let's get down to business then. The Conway Planning Commission makes recommendations to the City Council on public hearing items. Items reviewed on this agenda will be considered by the City Council as early as October 26th, 2021. Items not approved by the Planning Commission tonight may be appealed to the City Council within 30 days of the date of Planning Commission denial, with the exception of any decisions made by the Planning Commission acting as the Board of Zoning Adjustment. With that aside, we will jump into our first item, item 1A. This is old business. If you all remember, we tabled this last month for some more information to be submitted and worked out with the planning staff. This item is a request for conditional use permit to allow auto-related sales and service establishment and a commercial mixed-use zoning district of the Markham Street Neighborhood Specific Plan for the property located at 1061 Markham Street and 1056 Spencer Street. Mr. Walden.
Yes. So this item, the applicant is requesting to establish an auto service station. So it's for Motorsports Authority for the cranes. They are looking to utilize the two existing structures and make some additions. This area has sort of I would call a layer cake of regulations. So the first phase in terms of looking at this application is a conditional use permit, which you all will review. The next phase of which is doing basically the Markham Street Neighborhood Specific Plan review, which is administrative review. If it doesn't meet all of the requirements of that, then it goes to Historic District Commission. We have, in working with the applicant, have gone ahead and done some of the preliminary review for that, basically the Markham Street Neighborhood Plan specific review. That was part of sort of the confusion of last month. There is a requirement in the conditional use permit criteria for approval that basically it meet all of the standards for landscaping, site, parking, etc. So that's one of the reasons why all of that was worked out with the applicant through that process, was to make sure that wasn't something that would cause a fatal error with this particular phase of the application. So it's in the Markham Street Neighborhood Specific Plan, it's indicated as commercial mixed use, which you might think of that as being very close to what you would consider downtown, is sort of the context of that particular style of use. This is just south of where the new MLK Square is being proposed, it's not being proposed, it's being constructed. It's not. I've been in that project long enough where it's gone from proposed to now it's now being built. Within the all general area of that, to the north, east, west, and south, it's all that's the same zone. The existing structures are a 5,800 square foot metal office building and a 4,000 square foot metal office/garage building. In terms of looking at staff comments for this, the applicant is The applicant's proposing to renovate the existing structures for the purpose of establishing an automotive accessory sales and installation business. For this particular zoning, it's meant to provide opportunities for office, retail, live, work, and urban residential infill. As such, this use isn't necessarily completely consistent with the intent of the zoning for the site, but in terms of looking at it and reviewing it, this is an area that really needs a lot of improvement. And so I think as a transitional use, it could be a very valuable use in terms of the change within the area, in terms of looking at that. The structures on the site are more industrial in nature, and one of the structures is directly intended for this particular type of use. So it's not really necessarily adaptive reuse, it's reuse of a structure that is already intended for that specific type of use, while the other structure is not. That being said, the use could serve as a deterrent for some future residential development if there aren't the proper limitations that are put on that. So for instance, if there aren't noise restrictions, those types of things that could limit the impact of the use, that it could have a detrimental impact in that sense. And the site's very close to Markham Square that's currently under construction. Like I said, the use requires separate staff review for certificate of appropriateness. That has been informally done. It will meet all of the requirements of that once that application is submitted. And so based on that, it'll be consistent. So based on all of these items, staff recommends approval of the request with conditions. Essentially, we view it as, while it's not directly compatible to the area, it could prove valuable to the area in helping catalyze future development. Those portions of the use that may potentially harm adjacent property or impede development can be mitigated with proper conditions. So it's something that, classically with the conditional use, one of the things that you're reviewing is, are there aspects of the use that could be mitigated, that if there are negative aspects to it? And they certainly could in this particular instance. So the particular conditions recommended for this are vehicle sales of any kind are prohibited. This includes, but is not limited to, automobiles, trucks, motorcycles, and all-terrain vehicles. That just means sale of structures on site. Sale of vehicles on site. Sales would be limited to OEM and aftermarket parts and may include on-site installation, storage, staging, and outdoor display of vehicles within parking or loading areas along Smith Street and Spencer Street would be prohibited. No tires, merchandise, or parts for sale would be displayed outside. All repair or installation work would be conducted indoors. Any equipment stored outside would be screened from view from a public street or right-of-way. So if there were storage that was sort of in the yard that is behind the particular use. Car shows and similar special events would be prohibited, and then hours of operation would be limited to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. It would allow for, outside of those hours, operation on the site, but it would have to be conducted inside of the building without the public being able to access the structure. So with that, does anyone have any questions?
So everything around that's already commercial mixed use.
Yes. So this entire area was part of the Jumpstart plan in 2015. So part of that plan, that is what funded the Markham Street improvements that are still being done today. So with that Markham Street neighborhood specific plan, Jumpstart, was intended to have an area that is part of it's residential, part of it is commercial mixed use. Some of it is what they call college campus mixed use, which is sort of supposed to relate to Hendricks. But it is a redevelopment plan for essentially that entire area to the north all the way up to the Hendricks campus. The intent of those particular uses and structures in that area are for multi-story structures that have, base level, bottom floor, commercial, upper story residential. I'll say this in terms of application of the plan itself, this is one of those things where a lot of the goals of that particular zoning, that particular plan are aspirational. And so we've had bumps along the road where we've had to try to figure things out. We've had some developments that fully meet all the requirements, fit really well. But then you have existing structures, and trying to, reuse those existing structures, I think sometimes presents challenges, which is, I think, a case of this where the applicants made significant effort to meet the requirements of the code and reutilize the existing structure.
So if the current zoning is C, commercial mixed use, why do we have to give it a conditional use permit?
Because the particular use that they're wanting to do requires a conditional use permit.
Okay.
Because of the Markham Street specific plan.
Okay. So if it would still be commercial mixed use regardless, right?
Yeah, the conditional use permit will not change the zoning.
So what about the Markham Street plan that prevented this building from just becoming the building that it is now? I mean, it's auto service now. What about the Markham Street plan brings it before us?
The specific elements, primarily the facade requirements, glazing, drive access, parking. There were several things that have all been kind of worked out with the applicant to where it meets what the requirements are for the particular site. So for instance, if you look on the Spencer Street side, initially there's existing parking there, and with that, working with the applicant, they had parking that would pull right up to the building. It was our suggestion that they convert that to on-street parking and then have a sidewalk that went along there. That met the intent of what the code, what the Markham Street neighborhood specific plan intends, whereas the previous proposal of just having parking pulling straight in didn't. Or, along the frontage there on Smith Street, the tree planters, those are intended to, meet some of the requirements for the streetscape plan for along that portion that is required. So those are some examples.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioners, any further questions for Mr. Walden?
All right.
All right. So I'm going to jump to the other side of the podium since this is, I'm going to pass out some additional renderings that didn't make the packet. These are just a little bit prettier, essentially the same thing that you guys are seeing on the screen. So as you all will see, I am the design professional for this project and will be removing my chairman hat and abstaining my vote for this item, and am speaking in favor on behalf of the owner. As you can see there, those renderings, those are the intended look or aesthetic that we are trying to achieve and trying to meet all the requirements for the materiality of the buildings. Not quite really changing the scale of them, keeping them one story, removing the existing metal panel that's on the buildings and cladding them with masonry. And then the upper portions that you see in gray are proposed to be an architectural metal panel that is a new parapet, so that we kind of get rid of the sloped roof look and we go to a flat roof look to try to make it look a little more commercial. And then we have reviewed all the staff conditions with the owner. They are good with those, no objections there. And we are all on board, so happy to answer any questions.
Commission, any questions for Mr. Rule? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else to speak in favor of this petition? Okay, seeing if there is none, is there anyone to speak in opposition to this petition? All right, bringing it back into committee. Guys, any discussion points or questions or motions?
Well, Mr. Commissioner, Chairman, based on the staff recommendations, I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve the petition with all the staff recommendations from Mr. Webb and a second by
Right.
Ms. Ray. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And of course, we have one abstention. All right. Passing it back over to you, sir.
Thank you, Arthur. So motion passes unanimously with one abstention. Thank you, Commissioners. Moving on to our second item, or our current business. This is item 2A, and a request to rezone 16.71 acres located at the northwest corner of Dave Ward and South Country Club Road from O1 office to MF3 multifamily. Ms. Skeeto is going to present this one to us.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay. So the applicant is requesting to rezone 16.71 acres along Dave Ward Drive. It's the property immediately west of Country Club Road there at the northwest side of that intersection. Rezoning it from O1, which is general office, to MF3, which is high-density multifamily, for the purpose of a high-density multifamily development. MF3 would allow density of 24 units per acre. The property initially was part of a larger 75-acre rezoning in 2001. That's when it was rezoned to O1. That same year, a conditional use permit was approved for 22 acres of that 75, allowing restricted retail, which has never been executed. Since that time, approximately half of the property has been sold and developed for institutional use as a church, and the balance of the property has remained undeveloped under the current zoning. The comprehensive plan designates the property as transition mixed use, which supports more intense uses, including multifamily along major roadways. Though no multifamily zoning exists in the area, some level of multifamily development may be appropriate. However, MF3 development would represent a substantial increase in intensity and traffic and is not appropriate. MF2 zoning, which is a medium-density multifamily residential, which allows a maximum of 18 units per acre, is more similar to development that would be allowed under the current O1 zoning and is therefore more appropriate. If approved, any development of the property exceeding single-family residential would be subject to both the subdivision and site development review processes, as well as being subject to the Dave Ward Drive Access Management Plan. Staff recommends denial of the requested MF3, as high density would represent an abrupt change to the development pattern of the area without suitable transition or buffer to surrounding uses and could negatively impact adjacent properties. But as an alternative, staff would recommend approval of rezoning to MF2, the medium-density residential. Given the recent revision to the bylaws, this would require the applicant to amend the request before the public hearing is closed and for the request to be continued to next month's staff meeting before the Planning Commission would take action. One caveat to this also, I'd like to ask the Planning Commission to consider revoking the existing conditional use permit, which is 1154, if the rezoning is approved. The permit it no longer seems applicable as it no longer aligns with the current property boundaries or common ownership. So just another thing to consider. That's all I have. I can answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Beth.
Yep.
Commissioners, any questions for staff immediately?
I just have one quick one. Looking at the map detail, it looks like behind that there is an MF3 zoning. Do we know what is on that property, like how big that is and how many units are on it?
I believe that is currently undeveloped.
Okay,
Correct.
okay, thank you.
Staff recommend denial.
We recommended denial of the MF3 at that density, but we would support a lesser density of MF2. But given the recent bylaws change, that would require kind of a continuance to the next meeting and an amendment by the applicant if they chose to do that.
And you said 24 units per acre?
under MF3 and a maximum of 18 under MF2. When we did the traffic calculations, the traffic generation was more similar to the development that would be generated in O1 versus the MF3 was a significant greater impact in the traffic. If fully developed, I should say.
It's 288 units versus 324. I did some quick math.
Thank you.
It came up to just about 100 units less, yeah.
It's right off the road. There's access from Country Club and from Dave Lane.
There's access from Country Club Road, Dave Ward Drive, and there is a tiny sliver where it connects to Diane Lane that
Diane Lane.
I don't actually know the distance or how wide that access is. I don't know that they would be able to use that as an access, but it would primarily be accessed, I would assume, from Dave Ward Drive and Country Club Lane, or Country Club Road.
Just to clarify, we're talking about like apartment type units, right? Or duplexes?
It could be any,
Okay.
yeah, just not to exceed that density. I would assume, yes.
What was the last part again, the conditional use?
There is an existing conditional use permit that allows restricted retail, and a portion of that applies to this property, and that portion of the legal description from that conditional use permit actually applies to the portion of the property the church owns. So it's just not applicable in its current form.
Commissioners, any further questions for Beth? Okay, thank you. All right, now we will call on the general public for anyone else to speak in favor of this request, maybe the applicant or the applicant's representative. And if you will, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Megan Weckworth. I'm with Tyler Group, 240 Skyline Drive. I'm speaking on behalf of our client for the rezoning. We're requesting to rezone the property about 16 acres, just south of New Life Church, corner of South Country Club and Dave Ward Drive. While there's not a particular zone directly adjacent to the property, there are similar ones like what she said, MF3 just to the northwest and then to the east of it as well. So we think that it would allow off of Dave Ward this kind of density that we're requesting for. I think it would be able to allow all the density to come off of South Country Club, especially with the stoplight being there, to have easy access on and off the property. And then I think that was it. Do y'all have any questions for me?
Have you had any discussions with your client regarding the option to go to MF2?
We have, they're pushing pretty hard for the MF3.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? All right. Thank you very
Thanks.
much. Do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this request? Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is David White. I'm a civil engineer, work for the Tyler Group with Megan, and I just kind of want to go over, the current owner is not the applicant, as, listed as Palladino there. We've got a developer looking at it. I said the current owner is not the applicant. We've got a, developer looking at the property. Palladino is not the applicant. As far as the traffic concerns, Dave Ward Drive is a major arterial. Country Club is a minor arterial there. They're putting it on the corner of a major and minor arterial. It couldn't be a better place for traffic for a multifamily complex. Owner's not interested in the MF2. Shrinking down to the 18 units per acre would kind of, I guess their numbers wouldn't work out as far as the development goes. And also, there's kind of a little creek running through the site, and that's some property there is not going to be developable. So the 24 units per acre, they're going to need it, and also the little road going out to Diane Lane, that
if anything, that would be used as a fire access, extra third access for the fire department. We'll probably have to have 3 fire department accesses on this property, and like I said, that end of town just kind of, if you go out there to the development Walmart's in, you just see stores closing down all the time. This would kind of help that end of town, put some more population out there. And if you guys got any questions for me, I'm free to entertain any questions.
Curious about any kind of preliminary layouts of structures on that site. Would you all be giving New Life an easement for their current drive off of Dave Ward, and assuming you would split the development on each side of that drive?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Since that drive is there, it's got, if it doesn't have a paper easement, it's got they'll get an easement to it. But by law, they've got an easement to that property that they've been using.
Right.
So,
do you know if y'all would have any intention of trying to use that existing curb cut to benefit this new multifamily development? Or
yes, sir. I think we're only allowed, is it one access every, is it 300 feet, 600 feet down Dave Ward? So we would end up needing that, and probably an access to Country Club and another access across the creek to the west of the creek there.
Yeah.
And we could probably access all that part from just one access off of Dave Ward Drive. Of course, there'll have to be, right entry, right exit only on Dave Ward Drive there.
Yeah, gotcha. That's the only question I had, Commissioners. All right, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Do we have anyone else to speak in favor of this request? Yes, sir. Come on down. Yeah. And I will state, we do have and I should have said this before, I apologize. For each person to speak in favor of the request, the first person gets 10 minutes. Each subsequent person gets 3 minutes. Likewise, for the opposing voice, 10 minutes for the first person and 3 for each of the others. So go right ahead.
Okay. My name is Phil Dyer. I'm a real estate agent here in town, have
sir.
been for 42 years. I've been to a lot of these meetings, and I used to know everybody on this council. I don't know if I know anybody anymore. So I'm kind of struck by that when I walk in. I said, I don't know anybody. So anyway, I want to talk about the MF3 versus the MF2. In Conway, there is an extreme shortage of rentals and has been for a long time. I'm in the rental business. I know if you try to find a house to rent for under $1,000, you're out of luck. I mean, I'll give you $100 if you can find one tomorrow. And that one of those, she's looking at me like I can do it. So, you just happen to know what. But anyway, the rental situation is really rough, and I know there's a lot of rentals being built. But in Conway, there's always a lot of rentals being built. I mean, 20 years ago, I thought, how do they fill these things up? They do. They always do. And we got a lot of rentals being built right now, and I promise you they will be filled up. The lifeblood of any city is determined by the access to good rental property, because most people can't buy a house anymore. I mean, you're looking at $150,000 for an entry-level house in Conway, Arkansas. I mean, you're 30 years old before you can do that. Most people can't do it till they're 35, and so it's a situation that's tough. So you've got to have that rental to grow, because that rental gives you those people that are working in these factories and doing even IT work a place to live. And Rouse and Rouse, if you ask anybody in Fayetteville, that's where they're out of, about their company, extremely quality properties, and that's what we want in Conway. So my situation is, are you going to give them an MF3 or an MF2? Put yourself in their shoes. MF3 can make a profit. MF2 can't. I mean, they're going to spend millions of dollars and create a lot of tax base for Conway and a quality property. There is not a better place in Conway to build this complex. If you know one, please tell me I can sell it. You know, I'm telling you. That's a 4-lane road out there on Dave Ward Drive. It's out of the way. They say, well, it's going to create a lot of traffic. Everything creates traffic. Thank God that we have a traffic problem. I mean, you're thinking, well, he's crazy. He's got a traffic problem. If you don't have traffic, you don't have growth. And when you stop growing, you're dying. And Conway doesn't need to die. I was born and raised here. I've been here since 1949. So my parents had Dyer's Jewelers. A few of you may know who that is. So, but I just think you need to think twice before you go, well, we'll just do it MF2 and he can get by. Well, maybe he can't. And then you lose a tremendously good project for Conway, Arkansas. Because you don't know that he'll do an MF2. I don't know that he's my client. And I don't know if he'll do an MF2. And I didn't tell him what I was going to say when I got up here. Is my 3 minutes up? You know, it's amazing. When you have something to say, they cut you off. But you understand my point, and I'm trying to be as polite as I can about it, but I think an MF3 is appropriate for that location. You can't go anywhere else in town and be surrounded by all that land and all that commercial and not interrupt. I mean, traffic flow, 3/4 traffic flow is going to be on Dave Ward Drive.
Thank you, Mr. Dyer. Appreciate you. Thank you. We have anyone else to speak in favor of this request? Okay, seeing that there is no more, we will turn it over. Do we have anyone to speak in opposition of this request? Please come on down. State your name and address, if you will. We'll give the first person 10 minutes and everyone else 3 minutes after that.
Sure. I'm Brian Christian at 2670 Apple Blossom Lane, but I'm here to represent New Life Church. I'm an executive pastor and in-house counsel for New Life, and we object to the finding of an MF3 here for 3 specific reasons. First of all, ingress and egress would undoubtedly burden our current location. The access point to Dave Ward would be our access point to Dave Ward, where we actually have parking put there right now. And so definitely there would be an issue with access to the property. And in certain times of the week when our property is in major use, then there would be definitely burden on the Madison Road, South Country Club Road, Dave Ward interchange there. And so that's number one. Number two is, if it's going to be an MF3, I would think that it would be, because we don't have any sketches or anything like that to see what the property would look like, but I would think it would be a similar situation to what you have at Centerstone off of Moix. And depending on the development, if you do an MF3, the density there is going to be, you're going to have a lot of difficulty getting the parking inside the perimeter of that development that would accommodate visitor parking. And with Centerstone, you've got Moix, which is not a thoroughfare, where you have a substantial burden to that street already for visitor parking. And the only place that you're going to fit visitor parking in this location is not going to be Dave Ward. It's going to be our parking lot. And that would be an extreme burden to the current property as it stands. We don't mind there being a development there. We want the development to be good, but we don't intend to having to staff our parking lot with 24-hour security. And then the third thing is just a security risk. With that amount and density of population there, then obviously there would be a risk to our current location for all kinds of security issues, whether it's just accessing the building and things like that. We would have to definitely up our game with regard to security. And so that's why we would register our objection to the rezoning application.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
My name is Seth Jeffrey. I'm also representing the church in this.
Great.
And mine is similar to what Brian said. As as immediately to the rear of this development, we would gather most of the burden on our parking lot. The drive that we have access to Dave Ward does have a shared agreement there from the beginning of the property. So naturally, you guys as Planning Commission would want to use that. And we, on average, somebody might say it's a church, they're not used 5 days a week. The problem is I can count our parking on a daily basis, and there's well over 100 cars in our parking lot every day with both a preschool on site, which is again a security risk to this site with a large development right in front of it. But that's one of the biggest things that we see is we're going to foot a large portion of the bill as that 300 foot. I don't think we can accomplish another inlet drive on Dave Ward between where Country Club and our main access go. So just as the amount of traffic hitting our drive, our parking lot on a normal basis, it presents a major concern to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in opposition to this request? Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is the first one of these meetings I've come to, so I apologize if I get the procedure wrong.
No, you're good. If you'll state your name and address.
Sure thing. My name is Adam Crawford. I live at 651 Diane Lane. My family's been a resident there for about a year. I want to state that I'm not opposed to this property being developed, but I am opposed to it being developed as has been proposed here, particularly the possibility of using the connection to Diane Lane as an entry or exit to the property. That is a very quiet neighborhood. There are only a handful of houses out there. Most of us have small children, and it is a narrow, seldomly used road. If folks don't come in and come out at just the right angle, we wind up having people with their butts sticking out onto Dave Ward because they don't know how they're supposed to turn in. And that causes problems on a fairly regular basis. We don't need a significant increase in traffic or noise, and we would very much like to not see that happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak in opposition? Yes, sir.
I'm Bill Brown. I live on David Ward and Diane Lane. Diane Lane, when I moved there in 1984, was SB2 gravel.
Yeah.
We paid, the homeowners paid for the asphalt. I haven't seen the city contribute much, nor anybody else, but we do have traffic congestions. There's numerous wrecks down at the corner of Diane Lane and David Ward. You can check the records on that. They have wrecks. I'm there 24/7. I see the traffic flow. And Hal Crafton is building homes across. He's developing 80 acres across, nice homes, and he sells them. But all of them have 2 cars. Mm-hmm. Do the math. Traffic is going to be horrendous. It already is. Try to get off of Diane Lane on David Ward sometimes, and you'll sit until the red light changes at Country Club.
Yeah.
And I'm not opposed. I think Frankie deserves to sell his property. I think he does. He's sat on it a long time, but I don't want multifamily 3 dwelling. I don't think that's a good way for us to go. Phil Dayer doesn't live over there. He doesn't see the problems that we do. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your input. Anyone else to speak in opposition to this request? All right. Seeing that there is no more public comment, we'll bring it back into commission for discussion. Commissioners, what say you?
I don't like this for multifamily. Just my personal. Period.
Not in MF2 or MF3. What would you see it as? Retail, commercial?
I think we need to leave it as office.
Office.
General office.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Sure.
And I just don't think it's the right place. And you can call Fox Run or any of the apartment complexes in Conway right now and find vacancies.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that there's been a recent uptick in development for multifamily. What else do y'all think?
I've just got a question. If we deny this today, the MF3 request, the applicant still has the ability to come back with MF2, even if they don't do it today, or they don't?
Not for a year.
Not for a year, okay.
Unless we vote otherwise. We can vote to have it brought back. I mean, to allow them to bring it back before the year's up.
Okay.
I just have a quick, I understand Ann's point, but I also know I used to live out in that area and it's not really, I feel like, developing at the rate that people thought it would when, you know, the new Walmart came in all those years ago. Like it's kind of stagnant out there. And I don't know what type of housing exactly they're planning on bringing in. I know there is a lack of safe, affordable housing in this city that most average citizens are struggling to find housing when you work from a nonprofit perspective. So I would love to see more affordable apartment units going up, and this is on a major arterial. If there's a way that it could be done where it's not causing issues for the people that are already living there, like you don't want to create burdens, more burdens on people, but we also need more housing.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
I tend to subscribe to, I can't remember his name, Brian. Brian always says that traffic is not a reason. Traffic is the city's thing, not ours. And I usually tend to fall on that side of it until I look at this. And I drive that strip of road a lot. I live over off Salem over there, so I drive that strip. And I don't know that I want to personally fight that battle when you have that number of increased trips daily. It makes me a little bit weary about putting this size of a development there. I get that it's on a major arterial flow and a minor artery. I get that that's supposed to work, but we haven't seen the full brunt of what's coming across the street yet. We haven't seen that fully developed.
No, that's true.
And so we don't know. I mean, we don't know what that looks like from a point of view of if it's going to what that looks like. And so I'm having a harder time with this than I do with most of them, just because of that increase that we're going to see coming from there.
So if it's left as an office development, would it not still create traffic problems with increased retail usage?
Probably not the same. Probably not the same amount as 288 units of apartments would. I mean, quiet office or even retail office, I don't believe would impact it that much.
So when we did the analysis of how the property could be completely developed if it remains as O1, we took some sample sites and noted that development and applied those numbers to this site. The traffic generation, it's an estimate at best, but the traffic generation came up very similar to MF2. That was why staff leaned the way we did. Again, agreeing that some development is good, it's appropriate, but just mitigating what we can. Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
I do have one question, sorry.
You're good.
Some of those that spoke in opposition were talking about security risk, and I don't really, what security risk are there by having apartments? Just trying to understand that.
Yeah, I think that would be, my understanding would just be the number of people, type of people, being adjacent to a preschool program. That would be my only thought.
That's where I think I got it.
One of their concerns was the visitor parking, overnight visitor parking. From the layout, it would potentially be that parking lot would take that on. So, and I don't know how that would be monitored,
Yeah.
you know, or not, but I can see just parking being an issue. So,
Well, and I've noticed that New Life typically, and any large services, has the sheriff's office out there already directing traffic to try to help people get in and out. So I can't imagine what that would look like, that additional trips per day kind of contributing to that flow. Yeah, I don't know how you would control that at all. It'd be a burden on the church for sure.
To speak to that directly, we typically are required to have between 2 and 4 officers off duty that we're hiring per large event, as you're saying.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. Commissioners, what do we think?
A quick staff reminder, typically when you take action, staff always recommends that regardless of how one might feel about the application, make the motion to approve the application. That way we don't get really confused about is a yes vote a yes vote, is a no vote a no vote. So it's always make the motion in the affirmative.
Yeah. And then if we were elect to push or move for the MF2 option,
That option no longer exists for the commission. It would have to be generated by the applicant.
okay.
So before us is MF3.
I'll make a motion to approve the petition to rezone from O1 to MF3, as it is written here in the this, right?
Yep, with the recommendations.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the rezoning from O1 to MF3 with the staff recommendations, and a second from Ann. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed?
No.
Nope. Well, let's do a roll call. I'm sorry for the confusion.
Can we restate what was just said?
Yeah, are we approving
Are
staff's
we approving
recommendation?
the denial or are we approving the request?
The motion was to approve the request. So the reasoning behind that is so that when you vote yes or you vote no, a yes is a yes towards approval, a no vote is a no vote. So that it's just simply to make it clear, because if you were made the motion to deny, if you voted yes, that would be a vote against the application. So it's just to keep it crystal clear as to what is being voted on. It's a motion to approve. A yes vote means that you vote to approve it. A no vote means that you vote to disapprove the application or vote to deny it.
But when we said there was, Arthur made a motion to approve it with the staff recommendations. Staff recommendations say deny it. So that's what
I made that statement, and that was by mistake. I apologize.
Okay. I'm sorry.
He didn't mention that in his motion.
Oh, well, you added to it.
I reiterated it incorrectly.
Okay. Well, that's where I was confused. What are we doing here?
Okay. So let's call. We have a motion on the floor to approve from O1 to MF3 and a second by Ann. We will roll call. Commissioner King.
I vote yes.
Commissioner Gaynor.
nay.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Tucker.
Nay.
Nay as well. Mr. Ingram.
Nay.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
And Mr. Bell.
Nay.
All right. Someone get that count?
Guess it fails.
Yeah.
Correct.
So the motion fails 4-5. Thank you. Okay, moving on to our next item. This is a request to rezone 1320 East German Lane from R1 to MF1. Ms. Skeeto.
Yes. Okay, so the applicant is requesting to rezone this 1 acre piece of property at 1320 East German Lane from R1 to MF1 for the purpose of low to medium density multifamily development. The property is currently developed with one single-family residence. While the comprehensive plan designates the area as single-family, yes, you bet.
Y'all mind taking that conversation outside to the lobby, please? So we can hear. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
You're fine. No, I could hear him in the background. I'm sorry. That's fine. Okay, so the comprehensive plan, I already got, my time's up. Comprehensive plan designates the property as appropriate for single family, but it does not accurately reflect the extent of multifamily and commercial development that's occurred in that vicinity from Oak Street north in recent years. The applicant has indicated plans to develop the property with up to 11 2- and 3-bedroom townhomes, including garages. Development at the requested density would likely generate minimal traffic increase. If approved, any development of the property exceeding single-family residential would be subject to both subdivision and site development review processes. Staff recommends approval of the rezoning, as it would not likely negatively impact adjacent properties. Approval would allow the property to be developed at an appropriate density given the context of the area and serve as a transition and buffer use between more intense development to the south and residential uses to the north. I can answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions for Beth? I don't have any either. Thank you, Beth.
All right.
Do we have anyone else here to speak in favor of this request?
Terry Burris, architect from Little Rock. I'm representing Aracia and Karim Cebu, who are proposing to develop this property. In reviewing the adjacent properties, our proposal was to change to the MF1, which allows 12 units per acre. We'll be able to place 10 to 11 units on here. We're looking at townhomes, a mix of 2- and 3-bedroom units with garage. So we're looking for a nice transitional development between the more dense multifamily to the south and east into the residential that exists to the north. Mm-hmm. We believe it's a good mix for the neighborhood.
Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Burris? No? All right. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak in favor of this request? Anything to add?
Hello everybody, my name is Aracia Cebu and I live at 15 Joshua Circle in Conway. Well, for a while we've been wanting to participate in our community and this is one way of doing it. Conway is growing. I've moved here when I was 18 years old and not knowing any English, and a lot of people in this city have helped me be where I am, and this is just a way of us not only give back but also providing a nicer place to live for families that I'm sorry, this mask is just making it harder.
You're okay.
There are several families out there, as we know, that are working very hard, but for some reasons cannot afford regular type, going to find normal housing. So this is to be able to provide them that luxury kind of, help them live a better life, I would say, but also in a nice setup. So this is all I have to say. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Are the townhomes, are they to be purchased or to be rented?
Rented.
Rented, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you guys plan on maintaining ownership of the property?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak in favor of this request? Anyone here to speak in opposition to this request? Seeing that there is none, we will bring it back into commission. Commissioners?
Make a motion that we approve the request to rezone the property at 1320 East Durham Lane from R1 to MF1.
We have a motion. Any further discussion?
A second.
All right, so we have a motion from Ray and a second from Larry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye as well. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion passes unanimously. Good luck with your development. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Now we'll move into our final item this evening, or no, I'm sorry, our next to last item this evening, which is the same property. This is a request to rezone A1 to R1 of 48.52 acres at 5690 and 5700 Tyler Street. Mosquito.
Right, as Brandon said, the applicant is looking to rezone about 49 acres there where Tyler turns south and becomes Paget from A1 agricultural to R1 one-family residential for the purpose of developing a single-family residential subdivision. Comprehensive plan designates the area as single-family, and the surrounding area is predominantly developed with single-family residential, or it is rural or undeveloped. The applicant has a concurrent request on this same agenda for preliminary approval of a 54-lot subdivision, which would represent the first phase of development if this property was rezoned. Staff recommends approval of the rezoning as the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and it would allow for appropriate development of the property.
Any questions for Beth? Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else here to speak in favor of this request? I see Mr. French coming down the line.
Bobby French, my address is 1021 Front Street. Working with the Howe Crafton on this property, and basically just trying to get R1 and do some residential homes. If you have any questions, be glad to answer them.
Any questions for Bobby?
Will these homes, will they be for sale or will they be rental homes?
Be for sale. Yeah, he'd be selling the lots, and then people will be building homes on them.
Great. Thank you, Bobby.
Well, I don't know that Hal, I mean, he may build a couple of them, but there'll be, I'm sure some builders will build some spec houses. I'm not sure, 100%. He's developed selling the lots. Most of the lots he's been doing in Centennial area have just been sold. He's not really planning on building any houses. I'm sure he may build one or two or something in there.
Okay.
But, yeah, they'll be for sale.
Okay.
Yeah, if y'all remember, not too long ago, we looked at Wingfoot Cove, which is right there just to the east of this development, and it was 11 lots that Hal did here recently, and they all sold immediately to builders and personals.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this request? I don't see anybody left. Bobby, you're it. Okay, we'll bring it back into commission for discussion.
Is this in Conway?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's in the city, but is it incorporated?
Yes.
Like,
It's in the city.
it'd be, yeah, but is it gonna have Conway Court utilities? We had that one street in Conway, and there's others that just aren't incorporated in the middle of the city.
It's currently zoned A1, so it's in the city limits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bill Lucy Drive, they came before us.
Oh, that was that little, yeah.
That's
that
one
little-
street of houses, yeah.
Yeah, just a small street, but they ponied up for the water and all that kind of stuff, so, but we annexed it.
Yeah, that was Will's Drive. It was just a little pocket that remained outside the city and it didn't have services. But when they annexed in, I believe that they
Everything
did.
around them was in.
Correct, right.
It
But
was
this
just
is,
a little
this is
bitty
inside,
spot, yeah.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor from Larry and a second from Drew. All those in favor to rezone this property to R1?
Aye.
Aye as well. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion passes unanimously. Now we move to the review of request for preliminary plat approval at Lands End subdivision, as it will be known. And this is, as Beth said, 26.97, basically half of this, what we just rezoned, which I assume is phase one of this development. Mr. Walden.
Well, if y'all hadn't approved the previous item, I would have had to make some big adjustments to my report on the fly here. This item is tied to the previous one. This is platting a portion of that area that was zoned to R1 by your previous action. The applicant is requesting preliminary plat approval for a 54 lot subdivision. Again, on that same property, it will be phase 1 of Lands End subdivision. It's contingent on the passage of the other application, so the other application does have to be passed by City Council for this to become effective. Proposed lots range from 0.32 acres to 0.71 acres and are consistent with the minimum lot requirements for R1. The subdivision will access via improvement of Tyler Street and an extension of Whistling Straits from the reserve at Centennial Phase 2. It'll have a series of internal streets that are proposed to provide access to the majority of the lots. All proposed streets will require 5-foot sidewalks with a 6.5-foot green space. There are a few staff comments. There's a required north-south minor arterial indicated for the property. In discussion with the applicant, we've agreed that accommodation for the street should be made in a future phase of the subdivision. Based on current needs, staff supports construction of the connection as a local street with dedication of right-of-way for a collector street. There's no action needed on that item currently. The development fronts on a Tyler Street, which is a minor arterial. In discussion with the applicant, staff has determined that improvement of Tyler Street to collector standards with a dedication of right-of-way for a minor arterial is appropriate. Again, that's not something that requires action on your part as part of this. The applicant is also making improvement to, if you've ever been out on that portion of Tyler Street, it's not really Tyler Street. Yeah. It's a vastly unimproved section of that, and it includes over 400 feet of off-site improvements. The applicant will be eligible to claim road impact fees for these improvements, equivalent to the increased cost of improvement from local to collector standards for the applicable frontage along lots 1, 53, and 54. And full credit for the improvements that are made off-site. With that, gotcha. And then the development is consistent. I actually pulled out some of the goals in the comprehensive plan. It's consistent with multiple goals in the comprehensive plan. So based on all of that, staff recommends approval of preliminary plat contingent upon completion of the amended punch list and associated conditions of approval. This is also contingent upon approval of the associated item rezoning the property to R1 by the City Council. So,
Thank you, Mr. Walden. Any questions for James? No? All right. I'm gonna open the floor up for any support or opposition. You got anything you want to add, Bobby? I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
It's pretty cut and dry as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's just R1, some pretty good sized lots in there. Say most of the houses will be, 3,000 square feet or bigger, I'm sure. But it'll be a nice, the golf course is one side. Some of the bigger lots will be along the golf course, and then the others will be, a little bit smaller, but should be a nice development.
You said 3,000 square feet?
I'm just throwing that out there around that. Don't hold me. I'm not saying Hal will be calling me as soon as I walk out the door. But no, but I would say most of the houses in Centennial are close to 3,000 square feet. And I would say these will be definitely the same at least.
And then I heard you guys are improving the street from Tyler, from the corner where it turns to Paget.
Yes, we've worked with the landowners there, and they're going to dedicate. They're not going to dedicate the full, but they're dedicating us. I've been working with James and Finley on that, and we've got a deal worked out with the landowners to make that a 36-foot street through there, widen it, and make it kind of like just a trail now more than a road. But we are going to improve that, and then all the way on to the west line of this development.
That's the only question I had, commissioners. Thank you, sir.
Corrections needed.
Second.
Yes. Yeah, don't let me mess that up. So we have a motion on the floor from Ann for approval for this preliminary plat with the needed corrections on the plat and the conditions as listed by the staff, and a second by Drew. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye as well. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion passes unanimously. You bet. That concludes our public hearing for this evening. The only additional business that we have listed here is the selection of the new commission members. As you all know, myself and Arthur will be rolling off at the end of this year, and to discuss protocol for electing new members.
I haven't even seen that corn commercial.
Is it Channel 5? Yeah, I hadn't seen it either.
I don't think
I
people
found
even know what they're
a
talking
recording
about.
of it, but we don't run it anymore.
Okay, that's why.
That's why I haven't seen it.
I'm sure it'll be posted to the socials. But I guess if you all have anyone in mind, make a nomination for them or suggest that they apply.
I've had several people reach out to me and I've encouraged them to apply, people that have applied in the past. Do you know how many we have?
Well, we had one,
I
and he's
don't.
with us now.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, how many applications we have so far?
We typically don't know. Oh, we've had one.
We know of one because he copied all of us today, but there could be
Okay.
more, we don't know.
I gotcha. Because those go to Michael, right? Those go to Michael Garrett.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Y'all do need to form a special committee for the purpose of interviewing nominees.
I think I've bowed out of it the last couple of years, so I'll do it this year. I don't mind.
Last year.
No, I didn't. I was? Oh, well.
I think she attended one of the interviews, maybe, or something like that. She
Maybe
jumped
so.
in. She was available.
I don't know, but I can make myself available to do some of it.
Do we know? Do we have a certain number of committee members that need to be to form this committee?
Nope.
Okay.
Can we do the interview by Zoom? question.
Well, I can look into that.
Okay. That's really way more convenient because we don't have to, if we don't have many, we'll just do.
Yeah, and I've been through it this past several years, and typically we'll try to line them up one night and have them back to back and try to knock them all out. You know, it doesn't always work out that way with everyone's schedule, so that's definitely something we can look into. So I hear Ann wants to be on the committee. Who else? All right, great. Thank y'all.
If we get Zoom, if we can do Zoom, a lot of people can.
Yeah.
Be present during interviews.
Sure. So we'll check into that.
I prefer face-to-face. That's just me, though. I'm so tired of Zoom.
I think Zoom presents an issue for backing them up like that, because if I show up early and you're going over,
Right.
then
They
I'm
have
in the
to sit
waiting
there
room.
and
I mean,
wait.
do you make a waiting room where you make them wait and
Yeah.
admit them? I mean,
We
Zoom
have
kind of
to get
presents a
Aaron
little bit of
involved and all that, don't we?
Yeah.
I'm pro Zoom, by the way. I think Zoom presents
I mean,
a little bit. I think Zoom
I like it
presents-
when it's appropriate, but I've
Yeah.
just seen interview these people face-to-face.
So who all do we have?
Me, Letitia, Laura, Larry, Ray.
Just about everybody.
Ma'am.
Okay.
Oh, not me.
Let's see, and it looks like our nomination period ends on the 31st of this month. So we need to get these nominations in there pretty quick. And then the interview period would be
We usually do it in
next month in
November.
December, whenever, just in November.
November.
Okay.
Do it mid-November and have it ready to go by.
You need to make selections by the 15th at that meeting, so we can forward them to council.
Okay.
15th
Of November?
Of December or November? Oh, okay.
Okay.
Next Planning Commission Day.
Okay, great.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's tell
Yeah, it's right around the corner.
Michael to email, or you email us all.
Yeah,
email
we'll-
me
we'll-
all
we
of them,
will
and
just-
I'll set up all the interviews and let everybody know when they are.
Yeah, we can set it up in Town Hall Square, and
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
which is in the back, or
I was
or
fixing to
up
say,
in
where's
front.
Town Hall Square?
One of our two conference.
Here in this building?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the only place I've been in this building. I haven't been.
We
needs a
got
tour.
a nice conference room in the front, and we have a
Okay.
nice conference room in the back.
The thing about the back is it has access to the independent access where they could come and go and not have to come in through the main building.
Okay. Well, if you just tell me where to tell them to come, and I can set up the meetings. Be happy to.
Okay, sounds good.
Any further discussion? Any other items y'all want to discuss?
If there's no further business, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?